This is Doc with Doc and Lefty, listening to us tonight live from 6 to 7 p.m. on webcast1live.com. The always and ever trusty Lefty has joined us again tonight.
I prefer effervescent.
Effervescent. There you go. So we're, first of all, we want to say bless you to everybody out on the East Coast, particularly my friend Tommy O. Hey, Mr. Producer Man, can you flash our phone number up on the screen? Because I think my friend Tom will call in and give us an update about how crappy it is out there.
That would be good. I heard that that it's pretty serious. What about 88? Was it 88 or 8? 88 million people without power, 39?
8 million.
8 million.
2/3 of New Jersey's without power.
39 confirmed dead so far.
40 on the way in. Some unknown poor lady lying on a beach.
It's just awful.
It's just awful. It's absolutely, it's awful. That's all I can say. I'm glad we're glib tonight. Here's a couple of things I want to. First of all, let me kind of do a quick medical minute here. The first question always everybody asks is, why the heck don't these people get out of Dodge? Right? You know the hurricane's coming. We've heard about it for 5 days.
Yep.
There's several reasons. All right. First of all, a lot of people simply don't have the means or the transportation out of there. And when you shut down mass transit, it really kind of hampers people. In New York, most people don't have independent transport. They use MTA and the subway. When you have a storm surge, the subway kind of goes out the door. Second reason, people don't want to leave. They would rather, honestly, take their risks there where they live, where their family is, and everything else, and that's perfectly reasonable. The third thing is a lot of times people have a sense of invulnerability, especially if they've already been through something like this before. I saw that all the time down in Florida. Hurricane Andrew came blowing through there, and they're like, we've survived this before, and so nobody got out of the way. Most of the deaths are people sitting on the beach. Now, having said that, sometimes people are just plain stupid, and they don't want them to go.
Yeah.
So, and then now, how to recover from a disaster? First of all, this simple steps. First of all, understand that you're going to have a lot of bad feelings about this. There's going to be a lot of terror. There's going to be a lot of elation that you made it. It's okay that you make it. A lot of people have survivor's guilt. It's okay that you made it. It's fine, but you're going to have feelings, and it's okay to deal with them. Talk to your local mental health provider, and they should be able to help you at least process your feelings. The second thing is, it's okay to be angry at the storm, right? You can be angry at the storm. A lot of people get angry at God. God has big shoulders. He can handle it. The storm is gone, so it can handle it too. So however you want to direct your anger, make sure it's directed in the right direction. Don't take it out on your dog or your spouse or, your best friends or people at work. Process those feelings. The third thing is you want to make sure that when you are done grieving, because that's what you'll be doing, that you focus on getting back to normal, your normal routine, as soon as possible. That's one of the things I respected about George Bush after 9/11 is he basically went through those kind of steps in his addresses to the general American public. And then at the end, he said, listen, the sooner we get back to normal, the less impact this will have on the United States. Now, being a true capitalist after that, he said, so go shopping and do a lot of it, which I think was, questionable. But, at least, that's how you want to recover from this. And that's true in just about every natural disaster or situation like that. So
I've got nothing to add. I think that you wrapped that up pretty well.
All right. Good. How have you been?
I've been pretty good. I can't really complain. The life on the south side is pretty good. The life on the west side is pretty good. So
good.
Right
before I came here, life on the south side, by the way, there's a place called Paisanos, which is just,
yes.
You've eaten there?
I'm familiar with their work.
Oh my goodness. It was wonderful. I had a great Graziano sausage sandwich and the onion rings. You know how sometimes you get the onion rings are kind of soggy? so you're like eating,
Yep.
Onion grease. These were nice and crisp and snapped in your mouth, man. It was great.
See, there's a couple of different places on the south side that I really like.
Yeah, like what?
Like Barada's. Barada's
yeah.
fantastic. Some of the best pasta you can have on the
bet.
south side.
You bet.
But I really, and I'm now that I'm saying I've only been there a couple of times, I'm spacing on the name. It's over on it's on Park Avenue. The pizza place on Park Avenue.
Oh, Orlando's?
Yes.
All right.
Orlando's on Park.
Yep.
It's some of the best thin crust
that's
pizza
really good
in town.
stuff. The place I like off Southwest 9th is a place called Fat Tuesdays.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
That is the first place in Des Moines that I've met that has true Cajun food.
I talked to the owner.
Cajun food.
I talked to the owner, and he's from Lower Ninth Ward.
No kidding.
Yep.
All
Born
right.
and raised, moved up to Iowa and opened a restaurant.
Man, that's just insane.
It's really,
Why would you move to Iowa from Louisiana?
Oh, who? I don't.
There's no gators up here. That's an advantage.
I think that's probably the main reason that he was tired of the gators getting all the customers.
All the customers.
And I'm just saying, I've never been to New Orleans, but on no information whatsoever, I hear that it's a gator wasteland. That if you go down there, that you're going to get attacked by an alligator or 6. That's all I'm saying.
That's
completely untrue.
My nephews and I and my son went down to New Orleans last year.
Yeah.
And we took one of those airboat rides out there in the middle of the swamp. And as we're going along, the guy that's driving says, well, hey, we're going to be looking for gators. So we didn't see any gators. And he pulls up and he sees these bubbles and he goes, well, I'll be right back. I got a gator in here. Gets off the boat, sticks his hand up to about there, almost to his shoulder, in this hole to get this gator.
Holy cow.
And he's feeling around in there, and then he comes out and he goes, oh, I know what. He gets a stick and he sticks it in there, and you can hear it going, and he's going, oh, he's mad. If you poke it in the eye, it gets mad. That's common sense in Iowa.
I had a similar experience. I was down in Florida a couple of years ago, and kayaking in the Everglades. I was in south of Fort Myers.
Yeah.
We were staying at this house in Naples and Marco Island, like in that area. And we went down to the Everglades, and we were on this kayak, and we're kayaking, went through that tunnel. I can't remember what they're called, where the roots kind of come down into the water.
Oh, the mangroves.
Yeah, the mangrove. We went through a mangrove tunnel and into this sort of pond area, and kind of a sort of like a clearing in the woods, right? And we were seeing alligators all over the place. They're in the ditches down in Florida. Actually, there are a lot of alligators in Florida that come right up to the highways. That is true. But we were in there and just kind of paddling around, and with the guide was sort of out in the middle of the pond, kind of just hanging out and telling us and showing us all the different things and pointing out the mangroves, pointing out the different gators that were in this pond with us, just sort of chilling in the water. And I had my kayak getting close to these two snouts, and the guide says, "Blake, stop!" and puts his thing out, his paddle out. Says, "You gotta back up." Well, why? Well, those two gators there are mating, and you. And
that will make them mad.
The littler male gator was on top of the female gator, and they were right there. And I was about probably 6 feet from these two gators that were mating, and he could tell. And they weren't moving. He said, "You need to back up. Like don't even move the water. Just as slow and as fast as possible. Just do it." So I got really close to two gators that might have come after me because I interrupted their sexy time.
Coitus interruptus.
Yeah,
that's upsetting.
It is upsetting.
So, well, let me outline what we're going to do the rest of the show.
Okay.
Now, Blake is hot to trot over this Mitt Romney Jeep going overseas to China thing. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about that. Hopefully we'll be able to talk some reason into Blake and show him the error of his ways. What do you think, Ryan?
Let's do it.
Absolutely. He says, let's do it. We're also going to talk Boswell versus Fallon, which, that's kind of picking up a little bit of heat. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the local races. Chris Hagenow, he has a race, and Mike Brown has a race against John Forbes.
Is Mike going to be here today?
No, I don't think he is. He wants to come back next week as the results are coming in. I think that'll be fun. Did you ever call John?
Are we? No. No, I don't know John. You know John.
I don't know, John.
I don't have the juice that you do. What would make you think that he'd answer a phone
Because you're a
call for me?
lefty. If I call him up, he's going to know I'm some right-wing hack.
Then you can just tell him. You can tell him that it's okay, that there'll be somebody here to kind of chaperone, make sure that you don't do a number.
I'll try to get him on, and then we're going to go over. Well, I forgot what we're going to go over, but we'll go over something fun. Blake has a legal minute as well. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back in less than a minute.
Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician.
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. You're with us today on Webcast One Live. Lefty is with us today in the studio. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Good.
Since you are a co-host.
Good, yeah, good evening. This isn't like the days, you know, a few years ago when I showed up whenever I could. That would make a little bit more sense, but, you know.
All right. Well, I'm going to say, let's talk a little bit about the Ed Fallon, Leonard Boswell girl fight going on over there.
Yep.
Now, for those of you that don't know, Ed Fallon and Leonard Boswell squared off in the Democratic primary, and I think it was 2008. And of course, old Leonard stomped all over Ed. And the reason is, you know, Leonard's a battle-hardened campaign veteran who likes his, you know, congressional lifestyle. You know, he doesn't do a lot. He doesn't show up at a lot of public appearances. He goes out there, votes the way Nancy Pelosi tells him, and he's happy with that. Now, I will freely admit before Lefty kind of goes off his nut that, you know, it's not entirely an accurate representation, but it's an accurate representation of how he's operated since 2008. And before that, he was really a pretty good old guy, and a lot of people liked him. Well, Ed presented a significant challenge because Ed had a solid left base. And when Ed started running, Ed was well financed. And of course, Boswell did what Boswell does, and that is He wants to win, so he's going to pull it out. He's going to do what he's got to do, say what he's got to say, expose everybody, and lie if necessary. And and Brad Zahn experienced that. In fact, I think that's one of the reasons Boswell's not doing well this year in this race against Latham, because of the atrocities heaped upon Brad Zahn. Now Brad, he had his baggage and everything else, right? And if you have baggage, you have to expect it to be out there. However, Brad's got a nice interview with I think it's Channel 13 that goes over this very issue. Anyway, Ed here, I don't know, about 2 months ago on his show right here on webcast1live.com stated that not only did he do it on the internet here, he also said it in an email that went out to, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of people that said Leonard Boswell's a dirtball, and he paid me, he offered to pay me to get out of the race because he didn't want to have to keep campaigning and was nervous that he was going to lose the primary.
That's a no-no.
That is a no-no.
That's a no-no.
Unless you can prove it. So...
Well, it's a no-no to offer somebody money in exchange for a political outcome.
Oh, yes, that's right.
That's what John Ensign got into huge trouble for
Absolutely.
out in Nevada.
Yeah, you're right. I'd forgotten about that.
Yep.
So, anyway, Leonard gets mad and says, I'm going to file suit. Well, now, I like Ed a lot. Ed's now in radio. He's fairly harmless. He wants to go and he wants to ride his bike to work all the time, and he wants to, eat yogurt and tofu and all the rest of that stuff the lefties like to do.
That's so terrible for everybody.
And it is. It's awful. Can you imagine me riding a bike? Man, I tell you, I would impale myself if I got on one.
It would be fantastic if you rode a bike.
I'm not going to. I've already been run over several times. I don't need to get run over again. So anyway, old Ed goes, well, hold on. You can sue me all you want, but I have the papers and I have the documents to prove it. So there's a little spat that goes back and forth, and Leonard, being the smart guy he is, stops trying to mention anything. Mm-hmm. But Ed, being Ed, says, hey, this is an injustice, and I'm going to go after it. And that's what he's been doing.
Well, hold on a second. What's the injustice? See, I like Ed too. I've never actually personally met him. I talked to him briefly when I called in that one time and ambushed you on the radio on a show.
I appreciate that.
Well, it was really, really funny, and I liked it. But I guess my question, and I actually, when he ran against Culver in the primary, I voted for him. What was that 2002? Was that 02 when Culver first got elected?
No, that would be 2006.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah,
2006.
Because Branstad ran in 2010.
Right. So anyway, so I like Ed Fallon a lot, but I just don't see where he's the plaintiff, I assume.
No, he's the defendant.
Oh, Boswell did sue him.
Boswell sued him.
Oh, I see. For slander.
Yeah, slander and libel, both of them.
Oh well. I guess if he's got the juice, the truth is an absolute defense to any defamation of character claim.
But if you're in a congressional race that you're losing, and somebody accuses you of this, and nobody asks you any questions about it, it's not like the Des Moines Register went out and went, hey, Leonard, geez, what are you doing? Cedar Rapids Gazette didn't ask, although, of course, they're out of the district. Nobody asked anything. Mason City didn't ask anything. Nobody cared. I mean, that's the truth, because Ed's such a fluffy kind of guy. And anyway, it happened to give a little bit of a ratings boost to Leonard. So he started making some other disparaging remarks as he's out doing these campaigns.
Why would I'm going to break in, though. Why is Leonard Boswell bashing on Ed Fallon, who's got a loyal liberal following, when he's in a death match with Tom Latham that he's going to lose? A good friend of mine said that he's predicting a 56-44 drubbing on behalf of Mr. Latham.
Yeah, I think it's going to be wider.
I said 20 points, but no one wins by 20 points, so
it's looking like that. Well,
so
Latham's
bad.
ahead by fundraising 6-1.
Yeah, it's just awful.
And that's been my point. I mean, I have asked a lot of political people I know, including a lot of Democrats. Democrats simply shake their head and go, we have no idea what happened. Why bring this up? I mean, Ed was going to leave you alone.
Yep.
Right? Ed was just going to say whatever he said. And Ed has marginalized. It's not that he's marginalized himself. It's that he isn't a cutthroat kind of guy. He doesn't want to be mean.
That's how he lost to Culver.
Absolutely. I agree. So the bottom line is, here you have this big thing. Anyway, to sum it all up, that's the latest that's going on. Boswell's running around crapping on people when he should just be shutting his hole and taking his beating like he should. I'm going to tell you, for me, it's going to be a 35-65 kind of pounding from what I see. Because I will tell you, Polk County is going to be fairly evenly split because you have the northwest part of Polk County versus the southeast part, and that's going to split.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to be that big.
Well, I'm going to go out. You're going to say 20 points. I'm going to say 35. We'll see who's closer.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, I don't know a single liberal east of 63rd Street, from 63rd or west of 63rd Street to Omaha,
Oh, in the district?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I live out there.
Well, yeah, but you're not a whack job liberal.
Well, I'm still not going to vote for Tom Latham.
Well, sure you should.
No, I'm not.
Hold on, now can't as the employer, can't I say, hey,
you're my employer? When did that happen?
I'm saying if I were,
you
Ryan,
can.
you're voting for Latham.
You can. That was something I heard that I was listening to a show on the radio talking about employers influencing their employees' votes, and it's perfectly legal. It's perfectly legal to do that. It's kind of unconscionable, but it's perfectly legal.
Yeah. Well, now hopefully my receptionist and my office manager are listening, because if they don't vote for Latham and Romney, they're out. So.
They get in on the
yeah.
And folks, what you just heard sounds like the mad ravings of a dictator, but he's well within his rights.
Yes,
to say that kind of stuff. It's not illegal unless he was the federal government, which he's not.
That's true.
Effectively, it's not. You can't if you work for the post office, but if you work for Doc Petrosh at Petrosh and Associates, raving dictator.
Raving, I'm telling you. Foaming at the mouth. People think this is beer. It's foam.
Right.
All right. So anyway, Ed's going to be having a fundraiser tomorrow
for his legal fees.
And I forgot. You see, I'm trying to get Facebook up on this thing, and of course Ryan has, fell down on the job. Apparently he was sleeping back there or something, because we didn't even have internet.
It's so easy to beat up on the producer who could break in at any time and tell you exactly why you're wrong. But but that's what I'm here for.
Well, yeah, but you've seen him. You got a leg bigger than him. I got a foot bigger than him. Isn't that right, Ryan?
Yep.
He says,
probably right.
Yeah, he's quiet. He's quiet back there. Anyway, Ed's having a fundraiser. We've gone over this segment, Rats. We've been trying to keep it good, but
yeah, we're reverting back to our old habits.
Well, so we're going to run a 3-minute commercial, because we promised we'd run the big nasty. Oh, it's a 1 minute. We're going to run a short 1-minute commercial, and we'll be back after the break. After the break, we'll be talking about Mitt Romney's Jeep fiasco that's heating up the airwaves. And, Blake's been chomping at this one all day long. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. Please join us after the break.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little, until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
We're back. This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. You're listening to us on Webcast One Live. Thank you for tuning in. Our producer, we have to call him something besides Ryan.
We do, because it's not nice to just throw his name out there like that.
No, it isn't.
Maybe we'll think of something, and he'll have a nickname later on for next week.
Well, you know who he looks like?
Who's that?
He looks like remember the Wayback Machine?
Just how old do you think I am?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I remember the Wayback Machine.
No, I don't know.
Well, Ryan, do you have the YouTube video of Mitt Romney's commercial?
Yes.
Zipped up? We're going to watch the commercial first, and then we're going to figure out why the lefties went bonkers over it. Nice black screen. I think that's when we look best.
Industry, not Barack Obama. Fact checkers confirm his attacks on Mitt Romney are false. The truth? Mitt Romney has a plan to help the auto industry. He's supported by Lee Iacocca and the Detroit News. Obama took GM and Chrysler into bankruptcy and sold Chrysler to Italians who are going to build Jeeps in China. Mitt Romney will fight for every American job.
I'm Mitt Romney, and I approve this message.
All right. Now, did you hear that commercial at all? Because I had to use the headphones because I'm deaf.
I know what's in it.
All right. So you read the transcripts then?
Yep.
All right. So give us your take on it.
Well, it's not just the ad, because the ad doesn't really say anything that is technically untrue. Each statement taken alone is true. Except that GM and Chrysler really weren't taken through a bankruptcy per se. There was no trustee that like in a regular bankruptcy, they weren't necessarily reorganized. The government came in, bought up a bunch of stock, gave them a bunch of liquidity, and then ordered them to cut a bunch of costs. It was like a bankruptcy in the effect that they had the government making deals for them, but it wasn't like you would think of in a normal Chapter 11 or Chapter 13 bankruptcy.
I get that. Yep.
Anyway, so that's sort of a little bit different. But Chrysler is owned by Fiat in Italy. That's true. That some of the output of the Jeep company is they're thinking about re-expanding their market share in China. That is true. But this notion, when taken together, the implication, and this is what everybody's been saying, the implication of that ad is that Jeep is going to be outsourcing jobs to China, which, if it was true, in the slightest bit, would be a devastating attack on Obama, because the president has been fairly effective, I've thought, in bringing up Bain Capital's record and private equity's record of outsourcing jobs around the world. Now, the issue that I took, and the thing that I mentioned when we were talking about the show this morning, was not necessarily the ad. In fact, I didn't know that he was running an ad in Ohio. Mm-hmm. I was talking about Mitt Romney's campaign speech in Defiance, Ohio, where he actually said, and I just read that I'm going to paraphrase, but he said, and you know what else is happening? I read this somewhere. He said, I read this somewhere, that Jeep is going to be shipping jobs to China. That's what he said.
Okay.
In a paraphrase. And that is blatantly false. It's not even a misleading ad that ad was misleading. It's blatantly false.
Well, but he gets this off the Bloomberg thing, and we were talking earlier before the thing. Here is the quote that really I think is the crux of this issue. The volume opportunity for us is very significant, said Marley, who is also president of the Jeep brand, in an interview at Chrysler's Auburn Hills, Michigan headquarters. We're reviewing the opportunities within existing capacity. In other words, what we can do here at home, as well as should we be localizing the entire Jeep portfolio or some of the Jeep portfolio. In other words, are they going to start opening up plants, and are they going to ship the entire thing over there, or are they going to split it up? That's what that says to me. Now, later on, now rats, I just lost it. Basically, later on, I can't quote it exactly off the top of my memory, but he says, but of course, we're not talking about right now. We're talking about down the road, and it's a possibility, right?
Right.
And
so then why would Mitt Romney? Well, we know the answer. But if that's what you laid out there, that sounds fairly reasonable. That sounds to me like an American company that wants to expand its market share in a growing economy in China that has a growing demand for Jeep products. That's what it sounds like to me. That sounds like the natural order of capitalism to me. What Mitt Romney said is that they're going to be shipping American jobs to China, which is not true. And in fact, the CEO of Chrysler, Sergio Marchioni, says, quote, "I feel obliged to unambiguously restate our position. Jeep production will not be moved from the United States to China. It is inaccurate to suggest anything different."
All right. Now, I think part of this is part of this Bloomberg article also says that the plant in Guangzhou, I think, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, can assemble 500,000 vehicles per year. And they're starting with the Fiat Viaggio. So what they're basically doing is shipping some of the jobs from Italy to China. Now, I agree with you that it's the natural order of capitalism, right? I'm with you on that. But part of the thing is it wasn't until Romney came up with that ad and started talking about it that people started saying, well, hey, that isn't true. But when you look at what they said, and even Bloomberg, the second article here that I have, they say, well, listen, we're not moving over there. But you just got done saying, I mean, the president or vice president, one of the two, just got done saying, we're looking at moving at least some of the production for Jeep over there. It doesn't matter if they're shutting a plant here or adding a plant here. Those are jobs that could go to Americans. And if they open a plant over there, those are jobs that are not going to be American jobs.
So what are you telling me that we should? And this is what one of Romney's staffers said. He said, well, and when he's defending this, he said, well, why couldn't we make them and ship them over there? Are you telling me that Jeep, a company that's interested in making a profit, is going to bloat its profit margin or bloat his bottom line to add all kinds of costs, shipping costs and tariffs that China will inevitably put on those products in import duties to ship them to China from here? That's crazy. And you know that's crazy. And so to defend it in that respect is just idiotic, frankly. Here's what I want from you. And this is why I brought this up.
All right.
He lied. Doc, he lied. He lied about this. He took something that he lied. And this is the problem I've been having. I'm gonna get you on this one because this is the problem with the entire Romney campaign, where they say something that's not true and then don't correct it. And when people point it out to them, they say, "Well, what hey, look over here." And Republicans fall in line with this every single time. You heard the stuff about Solyndra. Solyndra was a Bush thing. They blame it on Obama. You hear the stuff about the economy getting worse. It hasn't. It hasn't. In fact,
hold on. Let's remain focused on the Jeep.
Okay.
All right?
He lied about it,
but he didn't, because Jeep is considering sending jobs.
No, it's not. It's not.
Hold on.
That's not what the quote says.
If you're open a plant overseas, are you going to be hiring Americans to staff that plant overseas? That's the question.
So are you telling me
whether or not we agree that it's a good capitalist move to a lower cost labor saving country? We agree.
You're not losing American jobs, though. You're expanding your company in a new market.
But those are jobs that could have gone there. The other problem with this quote is they're considering whether sending all or part. That's what that quote is. It wasn't until it started to blow up that they started backtracking.
I feel obliged to unambiguously restate our position. Jeep production will not be moved from the United States to China. He lied about it. He said American jobs will be moved to China. That Ohioans will lose their jobs because they're being outsourced to China. That's what he said. That's a lie. He mischaracterized what was going on in that Bloomberg report.
But hold on. First of all, this is what it came out with, and it says very clearly that they're thinking about opening up plants over there. We can agree with that. And then secondly, it says they're trying to decide if the localization for the entire Jeep portfolio, which means all of it, or some of the Jeep portfolio will be moving over there. Now, I understand your point about the tariffs, but the bottom line is when Romney said this and he started making that commercial, that's what was out there. It wasn't until after he said that they came out and said, well, hold on. Keep in mind, Chrysler is now owned by Italians. The government they're still owed the government money, so they have connections to the government and Obama administration, and they're trying to cover their ass.
Because the administration is the government now. They owe the money to the Congress, Doc. Well, they owe money to Congress.
Hold on. And is that why Obama is the one that started firing people, telling them we're going to fire you, get somebody else in there?
Oh, does the executive branch handle the money?
Well, that's what apparently
I
that's
forgot
what happened.
I forgot Article 1 of the Constitution, I guess. Here's
that's the other thing.
The bottom line, and the reason I brought this up is because it has been a very disturbing characteristic of the Romney campaign to not just to conflate things, but to completely twist the truth, to throw it out the window, and then just watch it flutter away and not be embarrassed about it. They do it constantly. They did it with this. They do it with every single position that he runs away from. They do it every time when he says, "I don't have a $5 trillion tax cut." Yes, he does. His 10% across, or was it 20%? His 20% across the board. Everybody says will cost about $5 trillion, and he wants to add $2 trillion in military spending. He sat in that debate and lied about it. And that's what, I got to think that's what threw the president so off his game. It's hard to debate a guy that's about his record when he says, it's not my record. It's not my record.
But we're talking about Jeep and whether or not he came out and lied. And when he made those statements, in Defiance,
Ohio, he said they're shipping jobs to China and they're not. What else would you call that?
Well, but let's say this is George Bush saying this. You'd be saying exactly what I'm saying now. That's what it looks like. He didn't lie. That's what this article says. It doesn't mean that they're going to do it. When you're on a campaign trail, you know damn well you don't have 20 minutes to explain everything. But the bottom line is they considered, and apparently are still considering, opening up a plant in China. Now, whether that's to avoid tariffs, get cheaper labor, whatever it is, what that is they're
localized production in an expanding market. That's just good business. This is what
I understand.
Defending this on those grounds is so weird coming from a conservative person because it sounds like economic protectionism.
The issue is you accused Mitt Romney of outright lying.
I did.
And I'm telling you he didn't outright lie.
He did.
He did not. If you sit there and you take a look at this, it's not a lie. That's what they said. And when Mitt Romney made those comments, that was the information he had in front of him. They didn't bother to correct it until within the last 24 hours. Now, I'm not going to apologize for Mitt Romney because, people do things you don't agree with all the time. But the issue is whether or not he lied. I don't think he did. You think he did. Now, we're going to be back in a minute, right? And Lefty and I are going to slug it out in the lobby to see if we're going to talk about this some more or not. And we're really good friends. Honest, we are.
That's true.
Yeah. And so we'll see you back. Thanks for listening. This is Doc and Lefty. I'll see everybody back in a minute. Please don't tune out. Listen to our sponsors. That's what allows us to keep on the radio. You're listening to Doc with Doc and Lefty on Webcast One Live. We'll be returned in 1 minute.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
All right, this is Doc with Doc and Lefty. We are back. You're listening to us on webcast1live.com. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Last week, we had 8 listeners. I'm hoping that we're up to, 9. That would be like a 12% increase from week to week.
That would be. You're right. You're right.
What are you looking at over there?
Oh, I found the quote. But you know what? I want to talk about something else.
These young whippersnappers and their
I want to talk about something else.
What?
I feel like it's a good time to talk about divorce. How's that for a segue?
But good.
Well, no, I had a phone call. This will serve as sort of my legal tip for the week.
All right.
I had a phone call the other day from a young man who was calling on behalf of a friend. Who this friend of his, a young woman who needs to get divorced from her husband and wanted to know about filling out paperwork. Now, obviously, I don't as a practical policy give out legal advice over the phone. We're encouraged not to do it by the state bar, and it's also just it's not good because you don't want people to misunderstand what you say. You want to be able to sit down with them and talk to them face to face, kind of so you can lay out things for them in a constructive way rather than just a conversation over the phone. It's just not a good idea. And so when people call me, my answer is to come in, have a meeting. There's no charge, so on and so forth. But he wanted to know a little bit about how this friend of his could obtain a dissolution which is what it's called in Iowa. And so I was thinking to myself, a lot of people out there don't probably know the best way the best way to get divorced if they need to, if it's something that they feel like they want to do, and that there's alternatives to hiring and spending money on a lawyer. Now, I don't want anybody to think that I'm being completely insincere by sort of advertising against myself as far as how to do these things without legal counsel, because I do encourage everybody, if they think that it's right for them, to obtain the services of a trained lawyer.
A person who represents himself has a fool for a client and a lawyer.
It's true. It's true.
Absolutely.
But it's not for everybody, and so I certainly don't want to sit here and say that you shouldn't do things yourself, because there are options in the state of Iowa to do them, but they're very narrow, and so you should take into consideration what your particular circumstances are before you do them. In the state of Iowa, on this, and all this information can be found on the Supreme Court of Iowa's website, you can obtain the necessary forms to obtain a quick dissolution of marriage, and if you represent yourself. Now, there are two conditions to do this. One, you can't have any kids. If you and your spouse have children together, you're automatically disqualified from this option that the Supreme Court provides to you. Number two is that you cannot have a lawyer prepare the documents for you. It has to be self-preparation, where you represent yourself in what's called pro se. So you represent yourself, your spouse represents himself or herself. Now, with those two conditions, if you meet those two conditions, then you will then you'll find those forms on the website and fill them all out and go through the process of obtaining a dissolution. You still have to pay the filing fee, but if you can demonstrate economic hardship, then you usually get that waived by the county clerk's office. So once again, go to the Supreme Court website. That's where the information to do the dissolution yourself is. They also have other forms for if you want to file a claim in the small claims court here in the state. To do that, you have to have a claim that is $5,000 or less in damages, and it'll walk you through the process. Remember, if you go to your county clerk's office, they cannot give you legal advice. They can point you in the right direction as far as talking to a lawyer, or at least give you forms, but they can't tell you what you should or shouldn't do. Getting back to the divorce thing, though, so if you do have children, you can't avail yourself of this service, and so you would either have to hire a lawyer or respond or try and file something yourself, but just knowing that you can't use the quick and easy forms that the Supreme Court provides. If you do, there are a lot of different issues, and so this will be my pitch for why you probably should, if you're thinking about getting divorced, given this sort of cheaper option that I've laid out, still hire an attorney. Iowa is what's called an equitable distribution state when it comes to dissolution. What that means is that the court takes all the parties take up all the property, they put it together, the court says what's fair. It's not a straight 50-50 split like it is in some states, but it is something where the court says, well, if this person made this much and this person made this much, and these are all the different debts and assets, and this is what we can come to an agreement about, this is how we're going to distribute the property after the split. Now, usually it doesn't get that far, because usually in Iowa, we don't have judges. Usually divorces don't go to trial in Iowa because we're Iowans and we're fairly nice people and we are able to get along, and our attorneys are usually able to work these out in what's called a stipulation to a dissolution of marriage. And figure things out in mediation. If you do have children, you will be required to attend what's called a Children of the Middle class and also mediation. These are things you have to think about before when you're trying to figure out what attorney to hire, because you have to factor that into the cost of everything that you're doing as far as splitting up your property with your soon-to-be ex. So just to kind of reiterate, there are options, lawyerless options in the state of Iowa to obtain a dissolution legally and cheaply. But if you have children or you want a lawyer to prepare those documents, you cannot use the Supreme Court's website.
Well, that's some pretty good advice. I'm going to back that up as well. Couple of things. On a personal note, Blake and I are both divorced. And I'm going to tell you, one of the most powerfully personal things that you have to do is go in and look at the person that you used to love and you may still love and have to go re-enter all this hurt again. The bottom line is that's why you get an attorney. That way you can hire them. He's your gunfighter. You go in, you say, I just want to get out of this as cleanly as possible and move on. If there's something stupid you guys are fighting over, quit fighting over it. Kids, that's not stupid. You probably got to get that worked out. But if you're arguing over a dog, there's plenty of dogs. If you're arguing over China, there's more China. All right? Things don't matter. Make sure everything's fair. Make sure everything's equitable. So you're not spending the next 30 years of your life going back to court arguing over stuff that's stupid. All right? That's why you hire an attorney.
That's even better advice.
Yeah. So let me, we'll end this segment on a high note. Thanks, Blake.
You're welcome.
That's pretty good. When we come back, we're going to talk about the BBC sex scandal going on. And there is nothing worse than watching the Brits get all bent out of shape over something they've known about for 30 years. You're listening to Doc on Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. We hope to see you back in a minute or so. Thanks for tuning in.
Tom Coates
from the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
We are back. This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. Lefty has decided to co-host with us today, so
after today's show, it may not be something that I do very often.
Why is that? What did I do to make you mad now?
I'm so
damn liberals are always so sensitive.
I have a really, really weak disposition and get upset and offended really easily. You know this about me. My skin is paper thin. That's why That's why our next segment is so
where's the pow?
Upsetting to
me.
Ryan,
where's the pow on there? I just got him on his skin color. Oh man!
But
dude.
if you haven't been following the national news or the international news,
yes.
And I happen to listen to the BBC World Service podcast 2 times a day, every single day, and so I'm pretty well versed in what's been going on over there. But one of their iconic media personalities, Jimmy Savile, who was a TV presenter in the 70s and 80s, and back in the 60s when he was sort of coming up in his career,
like Dick Clark. He's Dick Clark-like.
That's right. That's a great comparison. He is the face of an entire generation of media people in Great Britain, and died last year. He was in his 80s and passed away with his family, surrounded by all his loved ones. It's a pretty nice story, a guy coming up and having a great career and then peacefully passing away at the end of his life. And then,
bum, ba-da-bum.
holy cow, we're talking out just all kinds of bad stuff is happening. It turns out that Mr. Savile, beloved Jimmy Savile, was a prodigious and prolific pedophile. They're at this point, I don't know if you heard about this, they're estimating somewhere in the upper neighborhood of 300 victims over 30 years.
You know, I heard higher numbers than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you talk about that he would stalk these girls on the playgrounds, grab them, these little girls, like they had something kind of like the Mickey Mouse Club, and these girls would be singing, and he would go outside and in his crappy little van put them in there, coerce them into sex.
Yep. Like
and
12, 13 years old. And here's something
repeatedly.
Here's something else that I'd heard. They not only have, or that when I say I heard this, is from BBC reporting. He was sort of he wasn't a discriminating predator, apparently, which is odd, right?
Yeah,
it's odd to have somebody who goes after both, and apparently there's some boys that have reported against him at this point, which is not. And not to say that, you know, a child is a child. It doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl or whatever. If you sexually abuse a child, then that's an issue. That's a problem, obviously.
Yes.
And it's a heinous act, but it just shows the level of depravity of someone who
well they also
is so uncontrolled.
They also, well, one of the things that kills you is, you know, over here the journalists pretty much toe the paper line, right? Or the news organization. The BBC doesn't really do that. These guys pretty much go after themselves if they have to,
all
whatever
the time.
knows it, right? So what kills you is there are comedians making jokes about this. Benny Hill made jokes about it, and remember him?
Mm-hmm.
No,
I do.
And at the time when I was young, I didn't get it, right? But I like watching that Benny Hill. They have the retrospectives and stuff. It clicked in my head that, oh my God, one of the things from Benny Hill was talking about this Seville guy, right? And he had this little ditty.
Well, I don't remember the bit.
Well, I do because I just saw it here recently, you know, within the last year. And you're like, oh my God, everybody knew. People asked him, and apparently there was a BBC reporter who asked him directly, "Are you a pedophile?" And he said no. Of course, what is he going to say? Oh yeah, I'm a pedophile. You know, I'm a creep. Lock me up.
Yeah. It's stunning, and the scandal itself is not is not really at this point. It's not really about how a pedophile get away with it for 30 years, because a lot of the nature, and the doc could speak more expertly about this, obviously, but the nature of sort of predators against children is that they are very good at keeping these kids from reporting anything. You know, they abuse them and they manipulate them, and they get them into such a state that the kids don't think they'll be believed, or they use positive reinforcement on something so awful and malicious that the kids think that it's okay, and if they get them young enough, they think this is normal.
Well, and that's the other thing is, look at the power and the authority this guy had.
Yep.
There was an experiment, and I can't remember the year, but it was in the 60s. They had a fake doctor calling up real nurses with real patients with a fake medication and told to give twice the amount that the nurse knew would be fatal. And out of the 22 nurses called, 21 gave that fatal dose. So that is a powerful motivator when you have an authority like that. The other part of this is, you know, these kids are vulnerable. Yep. It's not like he preyed on 22-year-olds. He's preying on 13-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 15 years old. That's the group of kids I work with every day, and I'm going to tell you, God bless them, even the smart ones are dumb. They're very gullible. And you take somebody with that kind of prestige,
yep,
they're going to be very vulnerable. So he used that to his own.
Well, and did you hear? I don't know if anybody in the audience recognizes this name. Did you hear they arrested Gary Glitter over this?
Yeah.
Because he's already done 2 stints on his own child molestation charges over there, and they're getting him on this because of his connections. This thing goes, it's deep and it's wide. I think the guy that runs their Newsline or whatever it's called, the program that kind of passed on the story, is not newsworthy enough. I think that guy's going to get fired. It's just Cameron has come out and said a bunch of stuff about this. It's just it would be like if they found out Dick Clark had done something like this.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that he did. and they shouldn't be associated at all with anything like this. But
and that's absolutely true, and it's just a shame that it had to happen to such a prestigious company like this. But the bottom line is, this isn't just that one person. That had to be an institutional cover-up.
True.
That's all there is.
And here's my question, and I think that you would probably be able to. I'm going to ask this of you, and you probably have better insight into it than I do. But we're hearing a lot of this kind of stuff, the sexual abuse of children, a lot of this kind of stuff from adults that are disclosing now, way too late, decades too late to do anything about it. But like in the Catholic Church scandal, in this scandal, in a lot of the sort of like if you heard about the Aboriginal children in Australia that were stolen from their parents and raised by other folks in South Africa, that happened, like this pervasive abuse of children that happened, it seems like in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it's decades ago, coming out now. Do you think that there's been a shift in culture where we are more attuned, more sensitized rather than desensitized to abuse of children to the point that that's not going to happen again?
No, it still happens.
Well, Jerry Sandusky's a good example, but what I'm saying is he didn't have as many. It seems like, this is one guy that abused 300-400 kids.
Well, he'd be the Harold Shipman of pedophiles. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it's much less of a stigma if you're a victim today. People understand that you were the victim, that you couldn't have done anything.
That's
it's
a good
more
point.
accepted. The second thing is, there are still sex rings in America. I deal with them every single day. The problem is these predators pick the most vulnerable kids. Like when I was a kid, I'm not going to be a victim. I've never been. I'm too big, and two, I'm too mouthy. So I'm not going to be a guy that they pick. But you're going to pick kids that will respect that authority, that are afraid to lose whatever attention that they get.
Right.
There's another sex scandal about 6 months ago where there was a group of Pakistani men that traded young teen and preteen girls among themselves. This goes on for years. The girls don't come forward. Why? Because they don't have a happy home life. They can't go home.
Yep.
You're going to ask them to take the one thing that they got and destroy it.
And I'm not suggesting that the problem isn't bad today, or that but I'm wondering if there's been social progress on this, because when it happens on this kind of scale over the course of decades, you got to think that there's probably a social reason, there's an anthropological reason why these people don't report. And I think, and maybe I'm wrong about this, are children more comfortable reporting today than they would have been 40 years ago?
No, I'm going to tell you what, it's the same thing. There's an experiment I tell my students about. Way back when, they take these baby monkeys and take them from their mom. They give it a surrogate mom. And essentially, they torture these little baby monkeys. And the more you torture the monkey, the tighter it clings to the mom that's torturing it. Mm-hmm. I have seen women who have proof in front of them that their spouses and their boyfriends are engaged in horrific sexual abuse of their children, and they take their significant other's side. They sell their children out. They say, well, I'd rather have the child out of my house than lose my man or my woman. That's the problem. Those are the kind of kids these people pick on, because these kids don't have, and they know they don't have, a refuge.
Sure.
That isn't always true, but in general, that's true.
Well, I'm gonna break. We're closing in on the end of the hour, and I don't want us to go out on a sex offender high note, a low note. So I do want to say that I am I'm coming out of my this is a selfish plug. I'm coming out of my month-long hiatus. I'll be playing a show this Friday.
Great. Where
at the Flying Moose on that's over by your old office on Hickman. It's just if you go.
Oh, I know where it is.
Yeah. It's right there on Hickman Avenue in Clive. And then playing another show on November 17th in Ducktail at the Ducktail Lounge on 86th Street in Clive. So playing a couple shows, but not just me. There are lots and lots of great musical acts that if you go on the our Facebook page, Doc and Lefty Facebook page, send me a message, say, Blake, where are the good bands? I'm friends with a lot of them. I'll be able to point you in the right direction. The Bombay Bicycle Club is a great place to hear bands. That's over by our old office. It's run just got bought up by a couple of friends of mine who are going to do a great job, I know. But just lots of venues around town, lots of opportunities to go out, not just hear live music, but also hear live comedy. I've got a buddy of mine, Ben Herman, great comic here, local comic here in Des Moines. He performs around town, so check him out. And just get out and do something this weekend.
All right. Well, thanks for taking us out on that note, Blake. Our Facebook page is in progress. This is the end of the Doc and Lefty Show. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We will be back here next week with Mike Brown to look at the election results as they come in.
Are we going to be doing this during the election?
Well, from 6 to 7.
Okay.
So, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be here next week on webcast1live.com. Also, you can find us on Doc and Lefty. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.